Nampo Kaap beloof om vanjaar nog groter en beter as die laaste aanbieding in 2019 te wees. Henk Agenbach, voorsitter van Nampo Kaap, brei uit oor wat uitstallers sowel as besoekers hierdie jaar kan verwag. Then Professor Dave Berger from the University of Pretoria shed some light on artificial intelligence and the future of crop health monitoring. But first, the agricultural news.
ABE Biotech. Fermentasie is gelyk aan prestasie.
In today's news, the Animal Feed Manufacturers Association, AFMA, has noted a 2.2% growth year-on-year in feed sales during its April 2021 to March 2022 statistical year. These sales by feed companies amounted to 6.9 million tonnes. This comes on the back of a 1% year-on-year growth in the previous year. AFMA said in a press release that this growth was achieved despite a combination of challenges impacting the poultry and livestock sectors. The most significant challenges were high feed prices due to increased global commodity prices and the devastating effect of animal diseases. Russian poultry farms are abandoning the import of hatching eggs in favor of breeding chicks. This is according to a report by Poultry World. In January to April this year, Russian hatching egg imports dropped by 38% to 158 million units, while the import of chicks surged by 54% compared to the same period of the previous year. Most chicks were purchased in Belarus, Germany, and the US. A sharp rise in the price of hatching eggs was one of the reasons cited by Russian poultry farmers for the revision of their breeding programs. The price hike is attributed to logistical challenges caused by Western sanctions. And the South African poultry industry has been hard hit by Eskom's recent power cuts in different parts of the country. According to the SA Poultry Association, many farmers have been forced to watch their birds die due to disruption in heating systems because of power cuts. The association added that when farms lose power, the birds tend to not need feed or drink. In addition to Eskom's load-shedding schedule, farmers in Limpopo, Northwest and Mpumalanga have also been affected by severe and unscheduled power outages, referred to as load reduction. And that's today's news.
Nampo Kaap vind vanjaar weer plaas in Bredasdorp en ons gesels nou met Henk Agenbach oor die skou. Henk, Nampo Kaap word nou vir die 3de maal aangebied. Waar het hierdie skou begin en hoe het dit jaar op jaar so ver gegroei?
Ons het in 2018 'n ooreenkoms met Graan Suid-Afrika aangegaan om vir die winterreënvalstreek, nou die Wes-Kaap mos is, 'n soortgelyke aksie te kan gee as by Nampo Oesdag, omdat die boere nie daarbo kan kom nie, dis ons plantyd hieronder. Ons het in die jaar 1 beplan vir 10.000 mense en 250 uitstallers, en ons het gerealiseer 16.000 mense met 350 uitstallers. En toe in 2019 het ons 21.000 voete deur die hekke gehad, met 500 uitstallers. Vir verjaar het ons reeds 30 meer uitstalplekke gemaak, en dit is ook al reeds opgeneem.
Wie is die fokusgroep van hierdie skou en wat maak dit anders as Nampo Oesdag?
Die fokus van ons ouens hieronder is maar die landbouprodusente, nywerhede en die industrie wat nuwe tegnologie bedien. Dit is die winterreënvalstreek boere wat meer hier geakkommodeer word, en dit sluit ook ons wingerd, ons sitrus, ons groente en ons blomboere in, waar jou somersaaigebied meer by Botawil gesien word. Die implemente wat daar uitgestal word, is ook redelik anders as die soort wat ons hieronder gebruik.
Wanneer vind Nampo Kaap hierdie jaar plaas? Wat is die ingangskostes en waar kan mense meer gaan uitvind oor julle skou?
Nampo Kaap vind van 14 tot 17 September hier op Bredasdorp op Bredasdorp Park plaas. Ons ingangskostes is R40 vir kinders, R80 vir volwassenes, en die kaartjies sal ons verkies online by Ticketpro. Jy kan dit selfs by jou naaste Spar by hulle kaartjie afdeling kan jy dit ook gaan koop.
Daar het julle dit, so maak seker jy dagboek die 14de tot die 17de September vir Nampo Kaap.
Communique exists to serve feed and food producers.
Hey, al die boere, en ek het hierdie week 'n baie interessante versoek gekry van 'n boer. Inteendeel het vir my hier by Vosburg kom kuier, 'n koppie koffie kom drink, en toe vra hy vir my, Frans, ek kyk altyd na julle program, veral op BDTV en af en toe op Plaas TV. Ek wil graag 'n bietjie vir jou vra, wil jy nie vir my kyk na die suikerprys nie? Nou, dit was baie interessant. Ek dink hy is seker 'n suikerboer, maar dit maak nou nie saak nie. Wat ek wil vir julle boere wys, en dit is baie beslis, kyk 'n bietjie na hierdie grafiek. En ons het so rukkie terug, het ons, dink mielies het dieselfde tendens gehad, en hier sit ons nou weer met dieselfde tipe ding. Die suikerprys, sê vir jou, hier is dalk 'n groot linkerskouer, 'n groot kop, en ons is dalk besig met die regterskouer. Wat dit beteken, dit kan die prys al die pad afbring na, kom ons kyk 'n bietjie waarheen kan dit gaan. Ek gaan nou die neklyn vir die boere gee. Dit kan die prys al die pad afbring na hierdie vlak toe van wow, 15 Amerikaanse sent, dit is nou 20, so dit is skrikwekkend. En onder 17 sent kan hy regtig probleme gee. So dit wys net vir jou, mens moet altyd maar 'n kop en skouer dop hou. En wat ek daai dag vir die boer gesê het, hou die neklyn dop. En daai neklyn lê op 17 sent. As daai prys onder 17 sent begin daal, en hy begin verder daal, dan moet jy versigtig wees, hy kan afgaan. En dit geld vir mielies, vir soja, vir koring, vir enige sagte kommoditeit waarmee jy betrokke is in die mark. Of jy nou boer, en of jy verhandel, hou maar net daai groot formasies dop, want groot formasies jok gewoonlik nie, maar wag vir die neklyn om te breek, of wag vir die kop om te breek, voordat jy reageer, want dit is 'n tyd wat jy net moet ophou. Die mark wil eintlik vir jou iets sê. Wel, dankie vir julle wat kyk. Besoek gerus ons webtuiste www.fransklerk.com vir meer inligting, en ons gesels weer.
And now for our topic on artificial intelligence and the future of crop health monitoring. I'd like to welcome Professor Dave Berger from the University of Pretoria. Professor Berger, what is your main research focus in crop production?
Good day, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to tell you about what we do here. I'm a plant pathologist, which is kind of a plant doctor in colloquial terms, and we really like to solve disease problems in crops. But I focus a lot on maize leaf diseases, and we mostly look at the genetics of how some maize varieties are more resistant than others. But we also try to understand the pathogens to find out why they're so successful and how we can control them better.
So why is crop health monitoring of pests and diseases important to agriculture and food security in South Africa?
Crop health monitoring is really critical for food security globally. And this is because farmers lose a lot of yield from pests and diseases. And a global study recently evaluated around the world about 30% of the farmer's crop is lost due to pests and diseases on average. So you can imagine if a farmer could save that amount of yield, it put a lot of money in his back pocket. And we've done research ourselves, and we've shown that northern leaf blight, one of the common maize leaf diseases here in South Africa, can reduce yields by 72% if you're planting susceptible maize. So we've actually been able to quantify that locally. But I think it's also important, crop monitoring is important for the farmer. He needs to be able to identify, he or she needs to be able to identify which pest or pathogen is present so they can apply the right control measures early, not later. But more on a more regional scale, pests and pathogens are the ultimate trespassers. An insect's not going to fly across and get to the border of the next farmer and decide to turn around because it's trespassing. And so on a regional basis, we need to, the agricultural crop managers need to be able to monitor crop pests and diseases growing across a region. And on the country scale, we need to be alert to invasive pathogens and pests like the fall armyworm when they come into the country. So those are the main reasons for crop health monitoring.
How is crop health monitoring carried out in South Africa, and whose job is this?
So the farmers are the first level of crop health monitors. Any farmer worth his salt will be doing scouting, so going out in the field and looking for symptoms and picking things up early. But then on another level, researchers in the country have the job of doing disease surveys. And these can be done on a national basis by the Agricultural Research Council for a specific crop, or by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, Rural Development, or university groups, like we have done many maize disease surveys ourselves at the University of Pretoria. And this crop health monitoring has actually got two levels. Firstly, it's scouting for these symptoms, but very often the symptoms look quite similar. And so then, just like with a doctor, if you go to the doctor and he's not quite sure whether you have influenza or you might have COVID, he will then send you for a test. And so your sample will go to a diagnostic clinic. And so in plant health, we have a network of diagnostic clinics at universities, at the ARC, at provincial departments of government, and they will do the diagnostics using often technologies such as the PCR test that is used for COVID testing.
The word artificial intelligence, what is it exactly, and what advantages can it bring to crop health monitoring?
So artificial intelligence is something, it's a big buzzword at the moment, the fourth industrial revolution. And I like to use the definition that it's actually getting computer systems or designing computer systems to perform tasks which would normally require human intelligence. And so essentially, to actually develop an artificial intelligence method for a certain process, you still need the human. Okay, so you still need the humans to design the process. And so what we would need to do, I can give an example. Let's say, for example, we want to develop an artificial intelligence method to distinguish between northern corn leaf blight disease, which is caused by a fungus, and white spot disease on the leaf of maize, which is caused by a bacteria. And you can't use the same control method for either. So you need to be able to distinguish them. So to the eye, they look quite different. The northern leaf blight is cigar-shaped, and the bacterial disease is white spots. But to develop artificial intelligence, what we need to do is we need to train the computer to be able to distinguish the patterns. So we go out in the field, take 1,000 photographs of each disease, and then we feed that to the computer. And so the artificial intelligence is a set of algorithms, and there's many different approaches in artificial intelligence. And those algorithms are basically looking for patterns in the data. And what they do is they match those patterns that they see. The computer is clueless. It's never been trained as a plant pathologist, but it has to actually find the pattern which matches the label that we gave it. So we give the computer and say, these are 1,000 northern leaf blight and these are 1,000 white spot. And every time the computer gets a good match, it keeps that model, and then it keeps on improving and improving and improving. And eventually we have a computer model which actually can do the predictions at the best accuracy that we can get. And the way we know that is then we feed it 100 unknown images, okay, that is never seen before. And then we evaluate how accurate does it identify whether it's white spot or northern corn leaf blight, and that give it a percentage accuracy score. And so that is essentially the process of artificial intelligence for facial recognition, anything, you can apply that.
What are some applications of artificial intelligence for crop health monitoring? And I believe you are doing research on that.
Yes, so I'd like to talk about this as this is a technology coming to the farm near you. And in actual fact, many of our top farmers around the country are already using some artificial intelligence tools, which they've got from precision agriculture suppliers. And there's a lot of research being done at this level, like we're doing at the University of Pretoria. And so I'll give you one example. We have been developing a method for actually diagnosing grey leaf spot disease, which is a specialist area of mine, on the leaf of maize. And with this method, we basically had to collect our training sets. So we, in our field surveys, traveling around the country in maize growing areas, Eastern Cape, KwaZulu-Natal, and Mpumalanga, we collected images, and then we went back to the lab, and then we got experts to actually label those images and say, yes, there's grey leaf spot here, no, there's not grey leaf spot in this image. And sometimes it's quite tricky because there are scratches and insect damage, which look quite similar. There's other diseases which look similar. And we specifically wanted to be able to distinguish grey leaf spot from the 3 other main diseases: northern corn leaf blight, common rust, and white spot or PLS. And so essentially we then had our training set of a few thousand images, and then we basically fed that to the computer with the artificial intelligence algorithms. And in this case, we used a special type of artificial intelligence called deep learning, which is used a lot. And deep learning actually mimics how the brain works. So our brains work through pattern recognition when we're just going through life, and the process, the neural networks that we use in our brain, computer scientists have been able to mimic that in this deep learning method. And so we actually then were able to use this to develop a method for identifying this disease with about 75% accuracy. And so this could eventually be applied in a cell phone app for disease identification.
How can crop health monitoring be scaled up in South Africa to benefit food security?
So I've given an example of one particular disease on maize, for example, and we are now in the area of big data. And so we have big computer systems with big storage systems. So to scale up this kind of monitoring, we just need to be able to collect and organize the information in a very systematic way and in a centralized way. And here at the University of Pretoria in the Forestry and Agricultural Biotechnology Institute, which is an institute of the Innovation Africa at the University of Pretoria, we actually have a project together with partners CropWatch Africa on actually monitoring of the maize insect pests. So those are the fall armyworm and the bassiola. All maize farmers will be very familiar with those names. And essentially what CropWatch does is they have traps strategically placed around the country, and they go out during the season every week and they count the number of insects that they've caught there. And then this data gets uploaded with the GPS coordinates and the GIS data into a database on the cloud. And essentially then this is converted, and the GPS coordinates are changed a bit so that they're not absolutely accurate because of the Poppy Act and that. So one can, the scientists can see the accurate data under agreements, but then it's made public for government and other researchers to see in real time, and you can monitor. Basically, if you think about an epidemic, just like COVID starts somewhere, started in China and then it moved across the world. The same with the insect pest, it'll break out in one place and then it'll move. And so being able to monitor this like throughout the season is really fantastic, because then you take out, you basically, instead of sending the doctor to the field, you actually send the field to the doctor, because the human doesn't have to go out into the field to do the diagnosis. And so basically this type of scaling up process is something that we need as a country to be able to do. The Department of Agriculture and the ARC are developing those things. University of Pretoria, we're also developing these kind of platforms. And I think that is going to be something of the future, so that basically crop protection managers can really monitor what's going on in the season and watch out for invasive pests coming in from outside as well.
And new technologies, what do we need for food security in South Africa?
Well, the final point is that there's other new technologies in biotechnology, such as gene editing. And that is really important to develop disease-resistant crops in the country. And gene editing is different from the classical GMOs that we've got, because some types of gene editing, you do not need to insert foreign DNA. And so you can actually knock out a susceptibility gene and make a crop resistant. And this has already been shown in tomato by Dutch researchers, in wheat by Chinese researchers, and without actually introducing foreign DNA. And so many countries around the world, such as the USA, Japan, Australia, Argentina, Brazil, Nigeria, Kenya, have recognized that there's this new technology that is regulated, doesn't have to be regulated like GMOs. And so that can actually speed up the introduction of these new lines. In South Africa, we have a bit of a stumbling block because our government Department of Agriculture has decided to regulate these, lump them together with GMOs. And so I wrote an article with some colleagues in the conversation earlier this year. And so academia and industry is engaging with the government. And I think they're interested to listen to us, that we should really have this nuanced approach like they have in Kenya and Nigeria, to really allow this gene editing technology to be used in South Africa, and for us to be innovators and not be followers in the technology. So I'd like to see that. I think that's an important for the food security for the future. Thank you very much.
And that was about artificial intelligence and the future of crop health monitoring with Professor Dave Berger.
BKB, die betroubare tuiste van landbou. BKB, the trusted home of agriculture. Elanco, we are driven by our vision of food and companionship enriching life.